Well, the addition of water, Enshrouded has become one of these amazing creative games where you can create incredible things. And I'm blown away just by looking through their official Discord and the announcements that the developers do on all the creations that people are making. Now, I wanted to do a quick, simple video on how to create a formal water garden. Just a little one here with a nice little fountain in the middle. Because, well, you might have the imagination and creativity of a potato, and I wanted to help you out. So let me take you through it. First of all, here it is. Now, this really isn't that complicated, and it's pretty simple and quick to set up. I've put a lot of little plant pots and things like that around here just to sort of break up the pathing a little bit. And yes, we do have some specific, like the polished stone blocks here that you will need in order to get this effect. But things like the drains and the water dispensers should be pretty free to you once you unlock iron. Everything else around here is pretty much stone and brick. So other than the plant pots and the benches and things like that, you need the mycelium, the blue luminescent block, highly polished stone block, and the desert shingle roof in order to replicate what I've created here. I've also got the ivy and the climbing rose along with the overgrowth tool as well. And like I've already mentioned, the fences and plant pots and things like that. All those props. That's up to you. What you want to put in this space and how you want to fill it, stuff like that, I suppose. First of all, start out by digging a big hole in the ground. One of the tricks I like to use is set it in the foundation block, place the foundation block, and then remove it. It removes all the terrain that you just placed the foundation block into. Very, very quick way of digging large holes. I've also placed a line of blocks around the outside of the area that I want to turn into my garden. This helps me keep it in line and keep it to the shape and size that I want it to be. With the hole dug, I want to now think about how I'm going to be entering and exiting the formal garden. Typically, formal gardens, if you're familiar with them, you know, they're kind of walled around. They either have hedgerows on the outside or they have walls around the outside. You have a fixed entrance and exit to the garden to create the effect that they want it to. We're going to do the same sort of thing here. We're going to have an entrance and we're going to have an exit. So let's think about entrance. Where are we going to walk into this thing? Let's make a gap, and then we'll start building basically a stone entrance. Now, I've created an archway. I'm using the highly polished stone and the desert shingle roof to create this quite cool archway. If you use roof blocks in a direct vertical line, they create this really cool effect. They all do this in different ways, and then you see the desert shingle one here creates this almost like dragon scales type effect going on. It looks awesome, and I'm going to put that over the main entrance into the formal garden. Next up, I'm going to build the initial path out of that entrance, and I want a fountain in the middle. So I'm going to place a large block in the middle that's going to be essentially be the plinth of my fountain. Then I'm going to path around the outside of that fountain. And now build the pagoda that goes over the top of it. This is very simple, basic columns, build one in each corner, and then we use the corner roof pieces to essentially build the roof. These don't snap together very well, they're very tricky to place. There might be a lot of trial and error here. Obviously try and get it to line up correctly in the same block depth on each pillar. Again, probably a lot of trial and error. This is one of the trickiest bits to get right. Next up, we got to make some drains from the workbench. So we're going to have water flowing into this little, this bit here. We need to drain it away. I'm going to put a little of the thin drains on each base of this little fountain area. Now, I did play around with a few ideas, including pouring water over a bronze fell Thunderbrute head and on top of a barrel. Basically, I found that when the water was coming down, A, it didn't look right, and B, the water spilled over and actually went over the path into the main ditch. So after a bit of trial and error, I widened the drain area to allow more water to go in, and then settled on a simple sort of overflow style fountain, i.e. the water just comes from below, it goes up, bubbles over, the top of something and then falls down, much what we see here. And that seemed to work better. Now, I do play around with different concepts of fountains. I do encourage, like, just seeing what works, if anything. But for me, it was the bubble over fountain style that worked the best for this space. I did make a bit of a mistake here because the plinth in which I've placed this fountain on is 2x2. The water outlets are grid-based. You cannot free place them like you can all the other props in the game. So the outlet, the water outlet, is in one corner of that plinth. Now I style it out a bit later, but if you're making something similar to this, maybe consider making the plinth area 3x3, and therefore you can put the water outlet bang in the middle instead of, you know, to one side. Now it's time to lay the path out through the rest of the gun, being careful that it's completely symmetrical in every way possible. Now adding in the fences around the outside. Now the fine stone fence and post are the best, in my opinion, for this sort of thing. But, you know, prove me wrong, I guess. I've then got this kind of weird gap in the corner of the garden area, just because of, like, the shape isn't perfect rectangle. There's like a little bit here. So I'm going to fill it with farm soil, actually. And then I'm going to add some nice sort of plants in here. Flax, chamomile, and saffron, and all sort of flower-based sort of plants, and I think they'll look pretty cool in there. And now we can start thinking about adding water into the main sort of area here. I'm going to put some drains, again, the really sort of thin ones, actually on the path itself here, because I want the water to be almost level with the path. I want it to be right there. And so drains, and you need the outlets at that path level, because outlets will stop pumping water if they are submerged. So they need to be at the level that you want the water to be at, or above if you're draining it away further downstream, for example. In this case, it's at the same level as the drains. That should fill up this whole area nicely. So here we can see the water outlets. I've tried to sort of stuff them in the corners, really, just to hide them away as best I can. Why are you floating? You are a floaty little plant pot, aren't you? I do find that sometimes some of these things, they just end up floating around. It's very strange. Anyway, squirrels. Yeah, the water outlets, they're hidden. Now, if we go in here, we can see what I've done on the floor is replace the floor. It was stone, but I put in just Springland's soil. Springland's soil comes with grass. The plants I have in there at the moment are just blueberry bushes, okay, because they don't grow if they're submerged in water, and they look reasonable under the water. I have this unfortunate situation here where I actually have the ceiling of an underground room inside my base right here, and I want to maintain that ceiling as is. So I have this ugly bit of block there, which can't be avoided, unfortunately, for me. But, you know, just be careful where you dig, I guess. And the luminescent blue blocks are inset underneath each section here. I'm going to turn these outlets off. I'm going to close that one. Close that one. Because there's another little trick you can do while you're working with water. If you go to your flame shrine, you can say remove water. This will remove all the water from your base area. And that means you can get in here and you can do what you need to do. Remove plants, remove blocks, add blocks, everything you need to do in order to maintain and fix this area up. And that is pretty much it. That is the formal garden in a nutshell. We've got the fountain in the middle, and we open these outlets back up again and fill these up again. We have the pools around the outside as well. Now, when I do get to the new water biome, I will swap these blueberry bushes out for actual aquatic plants, and it will look even better. The reason I added the blue luminescent blocks inside here is generally, as you saw at the beginning there, it gives this wonderful blue glow in this whole garden, and it makes this whole thing look alive. Without those blue luminescent blocks here, the water is almost, you can't see it because it's so clear. There's not really much reflecting on there. Its effect is lost. You know, you can't really see, and it doesn't look as good. Those blue luminescent blocks added a lot to this build and the effect of this garden. It kind of took me by surprise, I've got to be honest. The ivies and stuff I added to the walls around the outside here, just to give it a little bit more greenery around these, around this building. And of course, we already mentioned the braziers giving light. Again, very effective during the night, not so much during the day here. And that's it. Just add a bunch of plant pots everywhere. Simples. It's a pretty quick, awesome looking water-based feature you can add to your base. And I really hope that you found this little tutorial useful. And let me know if you add something similar to your base. Join my Discord. I've got an Enshrouded channel if you want to share some pictures of what you've done. There's a link in my video description. Come along. Join in. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.